Hi there folks, it's Matt Hayson here. In this week's Market Wrap, I'm going to go through some of the data, the statistics and key dates that are influencing and impacting this property market in 2019. I'm going to start with home loan approvals because it's a pretty good indicator of what we're going to expect into the future. And the latest information has come through from December. And what we saw is overall loan approvals were down 4.4%. For owner-occupiers over the last 12 months, those loan approvals is down 16.8%. And for investment loans, it's down a whopping 27.8%. Now that brings us across to the auction market. Everybody is always looking at the auction market. Let's take last weekend, for example, where 521 properties went under the hammer for a preliminary auction clearance rate at 61%. Now, when we look at last Saturday or the one before on February 9, that revised clearance rate was sitting at 51%, which still suggests it's very much in favour of a buyer's market. And when we compare that to the same weekends of last year, we're seeing 30% less property go under the hammer this year, and a clearance rate last year was sitting closer to 67, 68% as well. Now that moves us across into interest rates. A lot of talk about interest rates at the moment. The cash rate still on hold at 1.5%, but the rhetoric coming out from the RBA is saying the next decision is very evenly balanced. However, more and more market commentators are now suggesting that it is likely that the RBA is going to reduce rates at some point over the next 12 months. Now that moves us into consumer sentiment. The Westpac Melbourne Institute of Consumer Sentiment latest results came out there, and some very interesting stuff. Interest rates. Now most Australians feeling pretty positive that there isn't going to be an interest rate increase for some time. However, there is a little bit of pressure. Sentiment on house prices is still on the decline, and also the time to buy a dwelling is also slightly reduced. But in some good news for the market, buyer sentiment is actually improving. Now we've seen that at our open homes and a slightly better attitude on the part of buyers making offers and getting involved in that buying and selling process. And that leads us into some key dates. Now I'm going to go back in time first because I feel that this date is quite important. February 1 was the final release of the Hayne Royal Commission into the banking and financial sector. Now there's some further recommendations coming through from that. It's going to certainly be a pretty big political issue discussed over the coming weeks and months. Then we've got school holidays kicking off on April 12. That leads us straight into Easter, Good Friday, April 19. That then rolls in to Anzac Day on April 25. And then we've got a federal election sometime in early May. So these are some really big dates that are going to influence when people bring their home onto the market and the volume of the property that's available, and then what impacts could have on the political landscape that could impact the property market. So some key takeaways from all of that data and what we're seeing in the market right now. Well, there's clearly fewer properties coming onto the market for the buying audience, and we can see that in a reflection of a better auction clearance rate and more people attending our open home inspections. And also there's some stability around prices, at least for the near term. Now we suspect interest rates are going to remain on hold, if not a slight decline over the next 12 months. So that's pretty good and stable. Even though home loan approvals are down, that should keep the balance of supply and demand relatively good, certainly in the key suburbs of Sydney. But we are anticipating that stock level to remain pretty low, at least for the next quarter of 2019. So that's it folks. What we're seeing is good value out in the market, pretty good buyer sentiment as well, and some great properties available. And our entire team looks forward to seeing you out and about. Thanks for watching.